Hello, and welcome to Critters and Cultures, the podcast where we explore the fascinating intersection of animal welfare and cultural diversity. I'm your host and veterinarian, Dr. Azalia Boyd, ready to uncover how cultural differences influence, enhance, and sometimes challenge the way we care for animals and relate to each other. Join us on this journey through global traditions, learning from diverse perspectives, and advocating for empathy and respect in all of our interactions. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Critters and Cultures. If something resonates with you during the podcast, please feel free to send me a direct message, comment below, or join our Critter and Cultures circle. Today, I am thrilled to welcome a guest who brings a wealth of experience in philanthropy, animal welfare, and environmentalism. Someone who is passionate for both animals and our planet truly shines through in her work. Irene Chansawang is a Thai-American philanthropist who has spent over 15 years focusing on the intersection of animal welfare and environmental conservation. Currently, she works with Maddie's Fund, thanks to Maddie's, supporting initiatives that improve the lives of cats and dogs, but her journey goes far, far beyond that. We'll be diving into Thai culture, Buddhism's influence on how animals are viewed and cared for, and the growing conservation efforts in Thailand. Irene, welcome to Critters and Cultures. I am so excited for our conversation today.
Hi, Dr. Boyd. It is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
Awesome. So before we jump into all the goodness that you've been doing in your work, both personal and professional, I do have an icebreaker question for you, okay?
All right.
If you had the chance to work with animals, you've actually had the chance to work with animals in some amazing places. If you could bring one animal with you on your travels, which one would it be and why?
Wow, that is a very difficult question. There are so many amazing creatures out there. It would be the elephant, truly. And I think we'll circle back to the symbolism of the elephant in Thailand, but they've been a part of our history. It's very commonplace to see them. They are vegetarians themselves. They would be easy to feed, I feel. And then just their sweet nature. I adore them.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Hard to pack up on a plane and take with you, but if we can make a plane that fits one, right? You have such a unique background with deep roots. We've discussed this, and you told me you have deep roots in both Thai and American cultures, and you've spent years working for animal welfare. Tell us about your journey.
So I've been traveling back to Thailand since 8 years old. I guess we can go back. I was born in the United States in Southern California to ethnically Thai Chinese parents. So both my parents were born in Thailand. They met in the United States, actually, for graduate school in Chicago. But they went back to marry in Thailand. And at some point, I was conceived, but we won a plane, and I was born in the U.S. I have gone back to Thailand several times, again, since I was 8 years old, and going to various animal facilities and seeing different conservation initiatives has just been integral in how my family introduced me to more Thai cultures and ways and traditions. My extended family, I still have several family members still living in Thailand. And I would also say, well, and I did study Southeast Asian studies in college, which allowed me to study for 6 months abroad in Southeast Asia, based in Thailand, but I got to travel a little bit to some of the neighboring countries like Cambodia and Laos. And then subsequently, my interest has expanded in visiting other parts of Southeast Asia. So Indonesia is on the list as well. And I've loved, again, as we'll talk about the background of Thai people, the national religion of Buddhism, I think animal welfare just naturally integrates so well into that conversation.
Yeah.
How we feel about other living things.
Yeah.
We grew up with a lot of animals too, as well, in my life.
Okay.
And if you want me to go into that, we started with bunnies, 2 bunnies, and quickly they multiplied to more bunnies.
Because bunnies will multiply. One thing we know bunnies will do.
They were a boy and a girl. And then my cousins, my extended family here, they had an American Eskimo named Snowball who I treated as my own. We took turns with responsibilities of cleaning and feeding and playing with him. So I've always loved dogs. We also had goldfish. And I think just being in a family that continues to love animals has been a network of support. We encourage one another. We are always adopting dogs, and it's just been a part of our family norm.
Yeah. Was there a moment or an experience that made you realize that this is what you wanted to dedicate your career to?
There was a time when after I graduated from Southeast Asian Studies at UCLA, I went into fundraising for the Southeast Asian tsunami. So this is going to date me, but when I graduated, the Southeast Asian tsunami occurred. So that piqued my interest in environmentalism even more than I had already been interested in just growing up and caring about nature. But I think that was the first sign of a pattern of things to come.
Yeah.
And
what was it about the tsunami that piqued your interest?
That it impacted several countries. It was Thailand, areas that I had visited and loved, people that I could have met in those areas. It was a sense of personal responsibility even to try and help people who might not be contributing as much to climate change and what was going on globally. And it was because some of the folks, were fishermen, and some folks just living ways that probably indigenous people live for hundreds of years. Right. So I felt compelled to try to navigate a career that would bring me back to that cause, to continue to, if not directly, at least amplify the causes that were important to me.
That is absolutely beautiful. And so you were talking about Buddhism, right? And you growing up with that Thai connection, that Thai background, Thai culture deeply intertwined with Buddhism, which influences attitudes toward animals in significant ways. You mentioned, how did those teachings impact your views on animals growing up?
So Buddhism, like other religions, the first tenet is, one should not kill or take a life. There's a respect for all living beings. And that, again, has been ingrained in me, but in ways that I've seen it in practice. Well, I will say that 95% of Buddhists will identify, or Thai people, 95% of Thai people identify as Buddhist. It is the national religion, and it encourages vegetarianism, for one thing. Not every Buddhist will be a vegetarian, but it certainly lends itself to it when discussing the first tenet, and it will be a way to more justify vegetarianism in the culture. So I will say that once a year there is a vegetarian festival in Thailand, and it lasts for about 10 days. And you'll know it because there are flags that are yellow flags with red writing. It's in Thai characters. It spells the word J. And so J means vegetarian. So you'll know that those are restaurants participating in the festival. So that's one way. You'll also see it's pretty commonplace to see stray dogs at Thai temples. Cared for by its residents. So that would be the monks and the nuns. And so there is a respect to care for other living beings and to try and give them a quality of life, even if they're unhoused, and a decent quality of life. And
tell me more about, tell me more about the stray dogs. That piquing my interest.
So I'm not sure about what happens today, but I do know that in the past few decades, there have been government programs to vaccinate and to at least give some sort of care for stray dogs. So this is government implemented policies. There is a stray dog population. They roam streets. Some of them look like the American cousins of the dogs I've owned.
Right.
Yes. And we live amongst, they live amongst humans. They are, again, cared for by members of community, members of the temple. And there are attempts to try and help with their population and vector control, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but my parents are Caribbean. And so when we travel back to Jamaica, it's kind of similar in the way that they're stray dogs. They're very independent, right? I was making a joke with someone the other day and I said, well, the dogs in Jamaica, they literally look both ways before they cross the street, right? They know the street, they know where they're going, they know they're going to be fed, but they don't necessarily always belong to people, right? So,
they're street smart. They are street savvy.
They are street savvy for sure. They're street savvy for sure. So what about reincarnation? I know that there is a lot of importance about reincarnation in Buddhism. How do you think this belief changes the way people in Thailand treat animals or think about protecting them? Is there a difference?
Well, so the example of the temple dogs who live at the temple, I don't know if this is nationwide belief. My mom has always told me that dogs who live at the temple are very fortunate because they have the opportunity. They will in the next life, perhaps a better life or a better life form, have a better quality of life because they sit and listen to the teachings of the Buddha. And there's that. But thinking about how we treat other animals and the relationship that we have with other animals, it would lend itself to treat them better because it is, in a sense, a karmic relationship directly, and then perhaps even building karma for one's next life.
Yeah, that is beautiful. The compassion for all living beings, their reincarnation, that naturally translates itself to animal welfare, right?
It certainly does.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is fascinating, and it gives us a point of education from your culture. So I do appreciate that. And there's such a deep level of respect and connection to all living beings, and I absolutely love that. So there's a there's a viral sensation with a said animal who is everyone's favorite hippo right now, Mudeng, right? She has come and captured the internet's heart, right? I watched a couple of videos of her just walking, playing, eating, rolling around in water. Anything she does is bringing joy to people. And she is really, is really making her a symbol of how animals create joy and a sense of connection, even through a digital platform. Tell me what you know about Mudeng. What's important to you about her? What stands out?
So Mudeng is the pygmy hippopotamus born into a zoo in Thonburi, Thailand. And, sorry about the lighting. It just turned off. So she is she's an endangered species. And so from what I understand, there might be 2,000 in the world of the pygmy hippopotamus. They are native to West Africa. I've learned all of these things because of Mudeng. So to me, she has been an ambassador to her species, to conservation efforts. And yes, as you said, bringing joy in a time where, sometimes we need that. We need that distraction. We need that cute round face to remind us of all that is
all the
beautiful
roles
in the world.
Yeah, all the roles, the chubbiness, right? And we could say thanks to social media for giving in a sense, at least allowing us to share her in a way.
Yes.
But what's really interesting to me about her is that, or kind of like a connection that I make, is that everyone in some capacity can relate to Mudeng. There is cross-cultural connection. So people from all parts of the world, regardless of their backgrounds, can relate to that joy that she brings. And that, for me, it's really kind of where we're all grounded, where we can all understand that power that animals unite us, right? And so I think
Exactly.
she does that. And I think it's amazing that I don't know how old she is now, but I think 2 to 4 months, something like that,
Something
right?
like that. Yeah, born in July.
Okay, she was born in July. So it's amazing that this little roly-poly can do that.
I agree. And I think that, exactly, she's been a symbol of almost universal love.
Universal love.
And how we can get behind something that is outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And she has reminded us of that. So Mudeng, I want to share a little bit about her name, which
Yeah.
means bouncy pig. And there have been bouncy pig.
Very
And
appropriate for her.
in fact, there have been different interpretations of her name because Thai language is tonal.
Okay.
And
what do you mean by that? Thai language is tonal.
So what that means is the different spellings of a word will take on a different tone. So Thai has 5 tones: rising, falling, high, low, and mid-tone. And I'm hoping that my friends and relatives who speak Thai, they keep me honest. They're going to correct me if I have the wrong tone. But Mudeng, for example, is a bouncy pig. Mudeng is a pork dish that is a common street dish. So that you might have seen those different interpretations of her name because the tone of it has been pronounced differently by different people.
Can you say those two side by side for us again?
So dang would be bouncy. Dang would be it means red, but also like it's the red pork dish. So again, hopefully Thai friends and relatives or those who are fluent in Thai will keep me honest here. And so another example will be the word for dog is ma. The word for horse is ma. It's that slight variation that changes the meaning.
Right.
And so I just want folks to understand that is why you might have seen the different interpretations.
Her actual name stands for bouncy pig.
Yes.
It's pronounced correctly.
Correct. Okay. Exactly. Okay. And then speaking to the universal love, she reminds me of my own dog sometimes when she is like biting the knee of her zookeeper. Yes. My dog does that. Yes. Now I don't know what behavior what that means about their behavior. Yeah. But it is, again, then that connection comes through, whether she reminds someone of a cute newborn baby or a little puppy who's feisty. I mean, I think that's, again, what brings so much of us together in this world, in this as we champion animals. Yeah. And with her, that's a really good point. The other point about her kind of going at her caretaker's pants is the relationship that they have, right? The relationship that they've built, which is even stronger when we're talking about the human-animal bond and the relationship that we can build with different species, right? Precisely. When you think that he is in the pen with her and her mother safely, that tells you something about the relationship he's built with the family, with the hippo family. Yeah. Let's talk about Elephant Nature Park. Oh, you're wearing a beautiful shirt for today. I love that shirt. Must go. I've never been to Thailand, but I can't wait to go. Tell me, who are your heroes? Oh, Lake Tylert, Kun Lake Tylert. She started Elephant Nature Park, which is a sanctuary for elephants who have been rescued from different industries in Asia. So she has been recognized by Time Magazine as a hero of Asia in 2005. She's met former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She's just received countless accolades for what she is doing for elephants and for so many people who love volunteering there. I visited in 2015.
Yeah.
So I stayed there on the campus grounds or at the sanctuary grounds, and took a few days to watch the family of elephants, the herd of elephants, feed them and bathe them. So it was similar to what I did with our family dog growing up.
Wow.
And this is where I learned so much about, yes, they're social creatures. They have a matriarch system where it's the eldest female who is typically in charge of their herd. But the way that they form their own group bonds was really interesting and special. And they're not all friends. They've all been rescued from, different environments, and some gravitate to one another and create their new bonds. They create their new family bonds. So they've adopted one another, which is amazing to see how similar they can be. Like they have their personalities and their own traumas. And sadly, I wish that we could put all elephants in sync. We wish that they could be in the wild. That's ideal.
Right.
But in a world that we live in, some animals are in sanctuaries and some are in various other forms that support conservation efforts. Yeah. That's the reality that we live in right now.
It is.
But Elephant Nature Park is just so special. And I want to say that the past month, we've seen Hurricane Helene hit the South and the East Coast. And around that same time, Chiang Mai, the city where one of the elephant nature parks is located, was hit by an extreme flood. So animals were evacuated. They were moving to higher ground. All the dogs were rescued. All of them, I think, were, from my understanding, all the animals were able to be evacuated. But unfortunately, the water exceeded what everyone expected, and there were 2 elephants that had passed even at the higher grounds. And it's very devastating. It's to hear these beautiful, majestic creatures succumbing to certain events that can be attributed to man-made activities.
Yeah.
Again, that takes me back to the climate change.
It does. And there's so much I want to break down here. I still want to shine some light on Lek and others, if you want to mention any, because her work at the Elephant Nature Park is famous globally, and she wasn't always given the support, the encouragement, the accolades for the work that she's done. And she's been in conservation work for a long time. So I do want to just, if there's anyone else you want to mention, but if not, specifically just on Lek, what have you learned from people like Lek about taking risk or about being passionate and the cultural reasons that drive the animal sanctuaries in Thailand? There
are others that I've read about. Lek is the name that stands out most to me, the one I feel most connected to, given being able to visit, being able to even speak to her directly. But people in Thailand have risked their lives for animals and conservation efforts. It continues to this day. And again, she has been in this for decades. Yeah. And there is that genuine love and respect for these other beings. And one so much as, yes, she, these sanctuaries that were built, they're not the most resource per se, but she's been able to support them through an actual global community. There are volunteers from around the world who have stayed and supported her work. And she has, yes, received much more acclaim. There has been a movie made about the elephant nature sanctuaries called, I think, Love and Bananas. But there is just growing love and support for the work that she is doing, which is wonderful to see.
And that is beautiful. And I think that there's this perception sometimes that animal rescues or sanctuaries in countries like Thailand, they're focused primarily for tourism or for profit. And that can really overshadow the efforts that people like Lek, who prioritize animal welfare, and others, her and others like her are making. So, yeah, I appreciate that. And
I will share there are definitely policy differences. The elephants at the nature park are allowed to live freely, and we, despite being a Thai person, even consider like locals, my family, we pay the same rate to go stay at the sanctuary as anyone else, whereas a lot of other places might give a discount.
Right.
This is absolutely for the benefit of the animals living there. So there's not just elephants, there's dogs and cats and chickens, a whole menagerie.
Yeah. I love that. And I also want to go back because you mentioned something that was obviously very disheartening to know about the death of a few elephants with this recent hurricane around the same time. So you mentioned climate change. Let's talk about that. So you have a passion for environmentalism and climate change, right? And you see many places face unique challenges when it comes to environmental crisis. How do you see, what can you tell us about climate change, environmentalism, the fight against climate change? What can we do as people? What's your viewpoints?
I want to share some inspiration I received just last week. I was watching, and it was a place that I've formerly worked at. It was the Hilton Foundation located in Los Angeles, and they gave the Hilton Humanitarian Prize to Amazon Frontlines. So that is an indigenous-led effort to help save the Amazon, which are the lungs of our planet, as some have said.
Yeah.
But there are threats to its well-being, encroachment on natural ways of indigenous people. And it's similar to how I feel about natural places across the globe, the connection I feel to places in Thailand, how others feel close to the land. I think there is a longing for so many of us who are in this effort to listen to what the land is saying, to listen to what Mother Earth is telling us. For a long time since, again, the tsunami, Southeast Asian tsunami, which is now 20 years ago, that was 2004. I've always felt that these floods, these extreme floods, are just a sign of Mother Earth crying. We need to plant more trees so that they can help prevent flooding, right? They would soak up the earth. We need more efforts. It would take leaders in their communities, and it also takes, again, the larger macro scale efforts to really change some of the policies that will make the difference. I mean, that would take government, that would take corporations to move away from our dependence on fossil fuels. But there are things, again, that we as individuals can do. Like I said, planting more trees, making individual choices that have a lighter footprint on our earth.
Yeah. And I appreciate those insights. And when the hurricane most recent were coming, it's almost like people are in this shock factor that they're happening. And you see a lot of posts on social media, it's coming, it's now turned from a 3 to a 5 or a 5 to, the different levels, but there's not a lot, at least not on my algorithm. And maybe I need to start looking at new people, but there's not a lot of connection to how much climate change is actually affecting these disasters.
You certainly hear the different voices, the different interests at play. If you follow Bill Nye, he is the science guy, right? Who I've been a fan of since
Bill Nye the Science Guy since 3rd grade, 2nd grade.
Yes, exactly. He will tell his audience and whoever will listen that these hurricanes, the strength, the level, and the temperatures of the water are absolutely related to climate change and the man-made activity.
Yeah.
So again, I think folks have to take a critical ear to who is sharing the information, what interests might they have for the platform or the stance that they're taking.
Yeah. 100%. So I agree. I think people they have to want the information and they have to be willing to make small changes, right? Until they become big changes because
Yes.
eventually we're all going to be underwater. I hate to say that, but it surely feels that way,
It's frightening, yes. And, being a person, I feel like a person who wants to, again, help amplify the different communities. I would say Pacific Islander community is also one that is on the front lines, have been on the front lines for several decades. And we're seeing it impact many different communities. And I think, again, it's hard to fight a fire when you're in it. So at a time when there are communities who are deluged with these floods,
right.
I think there are those of us who can try and, at least make a mark, at least say something in their defense.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And that's incredibly heartbreaking. So we see how climate issues affect animals specifically, right? The example you gave in Thailand, and I'm sure that it is affecting people as well as other animals around the world. So, we do, as a people, as a global, need to start making some changes for sure. Irene, so thank you so much for your insights on this. I do want to go back a little bit because I am truly, truly impressed by your work, what you've been able to do. I think it's transformative, the work that you're doing, and you've shared how much your cultural background has influenced your approach to animals and to the land, right? If you could take people on a journey to Thailand and show them the most meaningful aspects of Thai culture as it relates to animals, what would you want them to experience and understand?
I would, as I've said, elephants are rather commonplace. I would love to just drive folks through the forest from one major city to the next. And sometimes you'll see a family of elephants crossing. And it's just an amazing experience to be so close to nature and to observe it in its natural, these animals in their natural form.
Yeah.
And of course, I do want to highlight that the Elephant Nature Park might be your next best experience for these animals up close and seeing them up close. And of course, as I've talked about the flooding that has impacted Chiang Mai and the sanctuary, I want to bring up that there is a fundraiser, a matching opportunity through a US-based partner called the Abraham Foundation. So folks listening, if you have a chance to help support the cause, I think that would be a great, great way.
Yeah.
And I do want to just say that, yes, animal champions in animal welfare come from all backgrounds, all creeds, and we could learn so much from one another in this work, especially when we're truly trying to help more animals.
I absolutely love that. And I'll make sure that we include those details in the show notes about where people can support. And I think you said it, because what you just said, that last sentence, I think this is the answer to this final question that I have for you. But I'm going to ask it just in case you have more gems. If there was one message you would want to leave the audience with, what would it be?
It is to be mindful of one another and other living beings, and to be kind to ourselves at the same time. But again, to learn from one another, we can all be a part of changing the animal welfare movement for the best and helping our planet at the same time.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Irene, thank you so much for your insight, and you spoke from your heart today, and I really, really appreciate you exposing us to Mudeng and the champions of conservation. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And Dr. Boyd, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Critters and Cultures, where we explore the deep connections between humans, animals, and the world around us. Remember that every person has a story, every creature has a story, and every culture has its wisdom. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep discovering the wonders of our shared world.